Well, hi. Today is Thursday, June 19th, 2025. I'm Todd Studer, and this is Morning Coffee. On today's show, we are going to bring back in a couple of favorites. From ThinkSpaceIT, Jessa Erickson and Jason Erickson. Always a fun conversation when we talk to these two. And today, we're going to talk tech in movies and just how real is it? And it's a really fun conversation. So I'm looking forward to it. We're going to get to it here really, really shortly. Service Master Restore by Schmader knows it can be hard to get back to normal when you've suffered serious property damage due to flooding, fire, or smoke. You may also be left with all sorts of questions about how to get your home or business back to normal. Service Master Restore by Schmader will restore your space by offering quality commercial and residential restoration services in Council Bluffs and the surrounding area. That's Service Master Restore by Schmader. Do you or does someone you love need in-home care? Home Care Advocacy Network helps you maintain your own privacy in your own space while still receiving care and support with a personalized touch. Aging in place can be critical for many people. Home Care Advocacy Network can meet those needs with an understanding that assisted living is best at home. HCAN of Southwest Iowa brings the personal touch to care at home in Council Bluffs, Glenwood, Red Oak, Clarinda, and the surrounding communities. Visit hcan.com/Southwest Iowa to learn more. And if you're feeling stuck in uncertainty, conflict, or miscommunication, The Spiral of Accountability, this is a book written by local author Carol Horner, and it is your guide to breaking free from the fog that clouds decision-making and relationships. Learn how to recognize negative cycles, shift your mindset, and build a culture of clarity and collaboration at work, at home, and in life. Ready to spiral up? Get your copy on Amazon, or even better, go to Carol's website, spiralofaccountability.com. Start your journey to a healthier, more productive team. Joining us this morning, it is Jessa Erickson, Jason Erickson from ThinkSpaceIT. Good morning to both of you. Thank you so much for taking a little bit of your busy time to come on and tell us a little bit about what's happening in the IT world. And actually, as we were discussing, what should we talk about today? You came up with a really interesting one because how many people are watching a movie, watching a TV show, and they're looking at something that has to do with tech or anything like that, and they're like, that's not possible. That can't be. And I'm thinking you guys, it just has to drive you nuts.
Especially Jason, absolutely, yeah.
So you're just nothing but rom-coms then, so you don't have to deal with it. Is that what it is?
No, that's not better. That's
that is not his forte.
I don't want to. No, it's all about the rom-coms, not me.
Not all rom-coms, but tech in movies and TV is kind of is his thing, like end credits and whatnot for me, because I was an art major. So sometimes the credits just drive me bonkers. It's the same way with tech for him. I mean, obviously, if it's a fictional movie and they make no bones about it, it's not supposed to be realistic. That's one thing. But I mean, come on, CSI. You can't zoom in like that and have it be crystal clear. That's not how it works.
I remember an episode of CSI where, and this would be different than what you're talking about, but someone had been killed with a knife. So what they did is they poured a mold into the stab wound and then pulled it back out so they could get a shape of what the knife was. Yeah, that doesn't work.
There's a lot of doctors who are probably listening to this going, no.
That's that is not real. I don't know if you guys have seen it or not. One of the first movies that comes to mind when you talk about this subject is the movie Sneakers, which came out in the 80s. It had Robert Redford in it. It had a lot of big stars in it, and it was about a lot of cybersecurity and things like that. Have you seen that? Are you familiar with the movie?
I don't know that one, but I've seen the net, and that is another one that drives him bonkers.
Yeah.
I'm guessing probably for similar reasons.
Yeah, I think that was that the one that came out just like 4 or 5 years ago, the net? Was that
No. It came out back in the 90s with Sandra Bullock and
okay.
I can't think of the other guy's name, but yeah.
That was back with hackers and all that too, wasn't it?
I think it was a little bit after, but maybe around the same time, yeah.
So,
I like the movie, but I also know that that stuff isn't real.
No.
do you have any that are just really at the top of your list, like they've gone way overboard?
Yeah, there's a few. Normally, any movie that needs to fix something with they need to fix a plot hole with technology is my favorite, because that's the point where I'm like, nope, this movie's over, and I'll turn it off. But it's just like, I always love because we do a lot of door entry systems and that kind of deal. Mm-hmm. And I love how they run up and somebody can like swipe a card and then magically little numbers roll across the screen and it goes bing and you get in. And it's like, that's not how that works. No. All that happens when you swipe your card in that thing is it reads the number on the card. The number of the card goes to a controller and the controller releases it. There's no direct connection there to make you, hack the kernel, because I love that phrase too. I'm hacking the kernel. So it's stuff like that where they bypass security for common sense. Honestly, about the only movie I've seen that I was 100% like, yep, that's how that works, was Red. When they bypassed the security on their level 5 ultra secure in the basement of was it the FBI, CIA?
Yeah.
And he literally looks at the little box beside there, punches through the drywall and opens the door. That one works.
By the way, if you've not seen that movie, do. It's fantastic.
Yeah. How about the episode of Breaking Bad where they needed to erase a computer, so they put out a giant magnet on the outside of the building and turned it on, and everything hit the wall, but to erase a hard drive on a computer, would that work?
Not. It depends on the magnetic field, for one. And two, we're very good at digital forensics nowadays. So there's a lot of times you can rub a magnet all over your hard drive, and there's a good chance we can send it off to a lab and we can see the last state before you tried to swipe it. Okay? A lot of times, if you really want to destroy a hard drive, it has to be physically destroyed. I still recommend magnetically destroying it if you have the proper equipment. But it needs to be physically destroyed if you really don't want people to waste their time trying to get data off it.
Yeah, send it through a car crusher, maybe.
Yeah, a car crusher. I mean, I've had people take, sledgehammers to them, that kind of deal. As long as you bend up the platters and make it difficult, most people won't spend the money to recover the data. No. It's just not worth it.
No, because it's super expensive to do that.
Yeah.
How about a recent movie? Not sure if you've seen it. It was the sequel to The Accountant.
Oh, yeah. I saw that one.
Okay, so you've seen that one. So there is a scene where they are able to hack into some random person's camera and find a picture and then enhance the picture in order to get the photo of someone that they're looking for, and then use the facial ID software to be able to find out who that is. Any chance any of that works?
Okay. So on that one, yes and no.
Okay.
Okay. So being able to get into people's cameras and that kind of deal usually is not that hard, because a lot of people leave their cameras as default or that kind of deal. So we can generally get into cameras. Now, the way they got into the person's phone in the movie was they did something called a brute force attack, where they just kept guessing passwords until they got in. So that one is realistic. The problem is brute force attacks, unlike in the movie where it took like 3 minutes to brute force their way in, could take a month or so to brute force your way into a phone, Now, they narrowed it down by, using Facebook analytics and that kind of deal, information about the person. But if you have a decent password that's scrambled, it would take a long time to break into your phone. The other parts where they just linked, sort of, kind of. The one piece that I do know for a fact exists, and because I've used it myself, is the photo forensics, where they put in a picture and said, show me everywhere that this person has been. that exists. And it is very heavily utilized in Europe, actually. So if you go to Europe, you'll probably notice more cameras in Europe than you do in the United States. And most of those cameras are owned by public safety or associates of public safety. So they literally could take a picture of Todd here, throw it into their system, and it'll start cranking through all of the imagery, trying to find when Todd, robbed the bank. And where he's been for the last month.
All right. Well, I gotta cover my tracks a little better then.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, but that technology does exist. Now it is nowhere near as fast as they were making it seem on The Accountant 2, which I did enjoy that movie. But it was nowhere near as fast, and they just don't quite have. Even with the supposed unlimited money and super focused individuals to crunch everything and get in, it takes time. And that's honestly the biggest failure of most movies when they're hacking their way in, is it's literally they plug something in and then they say, I don't know how long this will take. And it goes beep, boop, and opens up. If we could sell that technology, we would make a fortune.
Yeah, I'm thinking of also, the king of all movies that is just completely unrealistic, which would be Armageddon. And everything that they do in space is, which I know is not really computer tech, but at the same time, it's the similar vein that, we got a story to tell and we don't care how we get there. And which was, I think, part of the charm of that movie. It's campy. It's supposed to be campy.
It is.
I mean, to me, it made total sense to randomly take a Gatling gun into space.
I forgot about that.
Totally believable. I mean, for no good reason other than to say, hey, look, we got a Gatling gun. Why? It costs thousands of dollars, honestly, tens of thousands of dollars per pound to put something into orbit. Why, in God's name, let's bring this 15-pound Gatling gun, because that makes sense.
That's how they shot their way out of the shuttle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
They used that to shoot a hole in the side of the shuttle so they could drive through.
Yeah, because they had to get out, right? Because nobody invented doors.
Okay, to be fair, that ship was pretty banged up. I mean, they did crash land.
Well, then there should be a huge gouge in the side of the ship.
Maybe it was on the bottom of the ship that was,
Well, that
they
makes
had to do
perfect
something to
sense.
get out.
So they had to plan for every contingency. That's why they took the gun.
Weird conversation.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I don't know that a Gatling gun would have ever entered my mind as a contingency plan for that particular situation. But hey, you know what?
Yeah.
Good on the writers for making it just wildly crazy.
And for those of us who've actually seen and attempted to cut holes using weapons, it doesn't really work that way.
Yeah,
even if you got bullet holes this far apart, that's still a whole lot of steel or aluminum holding that wall together. So that car just would have gone boing and stayed in there, and everybody would have gotten, nice windshield rubs on their heads.
But that doesn't make for a good movie.
Now, there is one thing in that movie, though, that I completely and 100% agree with. Okay. And that was at the very end when they're trying to go home, and the cosmonauts started beating on the engine saying, American technology and Russian technology, all made in Taiwan. That was
a great line. That was a great line.
I have to agree. That was probably one of my favorite parts. And I do love that movie. I'm a goober. I love stuff like that. But again, that's fictional. We know it's fictional. It's not supposed to be, for the most part, real. I mean, they're taking oil drillers up into space.
Well, why wouldn't
it's like Big Bang Theory when they took up Howard into space.
Well, somebody had to fix the toilet.
Well, yeah.
It's like Fast and Furious 9 when they took a Pontiac Fiero into space.
Yeah, same reason.
Sealed it up with duct tape.
Yeah.
Well, hey, duct tape is a wonderful invention.
Now I really don't want to.
Yeah, I took my son to that movie. I took my son to that movie, and I said, "That's it. I'm done. I cannot. We just cannot go to any more of these. Yeah, we can't go to any more of these movies because this is just So silly.
How many of them were there in the end?
Well, they're still making them. So
Oh, gosh.
I know that they made one after that, maybe two. So they might be on 11 now. But, it's the modern version of Police Academy.
Yeah.
You know, how many Police Academy movies went out there? And every one of them was horrible, except, well, the first one was kind of funny.
The first one was awesome.
Yeah, but, people kept going to see them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now they're bringing back the Naked Gun.
Are they really?
Oh, my gosh.
Naked Gun,
Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson.
Liam Neeson is taking Leslie Nielsen's role.
Yeah, as his son.
That would actually be good. Okay.
Yeah.
I would enjoy watching that.
Seth MacFarlane is producing it, so that tells me there again it's going to be fun.
Yeah. He's not going to hold back.
Well, movie reviews, I think, is not at all what I was expecting today to be, but still, I think it's great. And,
we're very good at left field. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But no, circling back to our original premise, which was, tech in movies. If it seems really cool in the movie, it probably doesn't exist. That's the general rule. If it's really, really just whiz bang, man, that's amazing technology. It doesn't exist now anyway. And that is one thing I like about, I don't have a problem with movies based in the future. I can watch that, totally suspend disbelief, because, I look back at things like Star Trek and all the tech that we got out of Star Trek, 20, 30 years after the fact.
Right.
Star Trek is really where they got the idea for the cell phone, and where we got the idea for PDAs, and where we got the idea for all this tech that we just take for granted nowadays.
I thought it all came from the Jetsons.
Well, that too. I'm still waiting for my Rosie. Where's my Rosie the robot? That's what I want.
I've always
and I
wanted
saw
a
the
Rosie.
Tesla robots. Those look more like the robots that are going to try to kill everybody and take over the world. So I'm not getting one of those.
Well, that's what I thought was the robot in Rocky IV.
Yeah, let's not go there either. Robots are much better now, but they aren't to movie level yet.
No.
How about the idea that everybody's Ring camera is accessible by some centralized government entity?
Well, they are Chinese made, so it's possible. We've gotten burned by that on other Chinese technology. The Huawei towers and that kind of deal that they started putting up because they were so inexpensive. We found out they were monitoring a lot of people's phone calls and such. So they got rid of that stuff, which, the government stepped in and said no more of that nonsense. Is it possible? Yes. I don't know how likely it is. The biggest problem, honestly, with the rings and that kind of deal is, you honestly get what you pay for. There's no security built into these things. They really aren't meant to be secure. They're meant to be functional. They're meant to do a job. This is the reason we had so many problems a while back with denial of service attacks from thermostats and that kind of deal, because thermostats are amazingly easy to hack, or not even hack, access is a better phrase, because people don't change the passwords on them, or there's a backdoor vendor who uses the same password on all their installs, So it's very easy to take over those, put a little malicious code in, and then when you want to do what's called an denial of service attack, you just start having your thermostat, ask questions of a website, and which doesn't sound like a big deal, but when you got 1 million of them doing it simultaneously, it's enough to take the website down. So a lot of times when you hear about, they're hacking the website, they're attacking the website, they're doing this, that, and the other, what they're doing is they're trying to flood it with so much nonsense traffic that the website doesn't become accessible anymore. So that's the most common thing that I see with the cheap tech, like Ring. Now, I said I'm not going to say one way or the other. I don't have any definitive proof or information one way or the other about Ring and its ties to any other governments. But the general rule is if it comes from China, you got to assume some sense of possibility that there may be a back door in it. It's just the nature of it.
Alexa, is that another one that?
Yeah,
because I don't have it. So, although I do, every once in a while, I will use the voice activated remote control.
Yeah.
Because I just don't have time to type in something that I'm searching. I just use my voice.
Yeah, I mean, everybody needs their home Google wiretap. That's really what it's all about. And, it amazes me when I talk to folks and they don't realize that thing's listening all the time. And even though you may not be talking to it, it's listening. It's capturing information. It knows what you're saying. I always love the people who are like, I don't understand. I was talking to my wife the other day about getting, some lumber or something, and now all of my ad searches are all about lumber and where to go buy it. And I'm like, yeah, you probably set it close to some open device somewhere. And whether that's your Alexa or your, Google device or whatever. Yeah, they're all listening all the time.
Well, they have to be.
Yeah.
And they're also tied together because I can have a conversation away from home, but my phone hears it, and now I start seeing ads for it on Hulu.
Look it up real quick. I thought Hulu was owned by Facebook.
I know that Hulu and Disney have this thing going on now.
Yeah, they have
Disney. I'm thinking of. Okay.
Yeah,
so
they
Disney.
have the partnership.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I thought Disney outright bought them. If only we had some kind of technology that we could look this stuff up
on. Does Disney own Hulu?
Oh, you are about to see.
Disney owns Hulu. Yes.
There you go.
Actually, so this is funny. They just acquired Comcast's remaining stake in Hulu as of this month.
Yeah, Comcast is selling off all of their linear TV type stuff, it seems. So
okay.
Yeah.
So everyone now that's watching this show is now going to start seeing ads for the happiest place on earth.
Yeah.
Because we've been talking about Disney.
I think it's very odd that we're going to talk about Disney and all of a sudden I'm going to start getting ads for Tijuana, the happiest place on earth.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's the happiest place on earth according to James Earl Jones in Big Bang Theory. Bang, bang, bang.
But no, it's you got to remember all the analytics and all that. They're all pouring back to two or three parties, realistically. Google being the big one. So Google gathers the analytics, it ties it to you as a person, and then that's what they sell to advertisers. And then the advertisers go and say, hey, this guy said he wanted a new Mercedes. Let's start pushing all these ads for Mercedes to Todd because he said the word Mercedes once,
And here come the ads for Mercedes on Todd's phone.
I'm sure that's about what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it works the same, anytime that I have to go to, say I go to Canva and I'm putting something together. Now, suddenly ads for Canva everywhere. And my thinking is you just wasted your time. I'm already using the product. I don't need to see ads for Canva. So that's that's where I don't think it works all that well.
It works exactly as it's supposed to.
Well, as it's supposed to, yeah.
Care. Canva doesn't know this. Well, they probably do, but Google and all that are all about selling the ads. They don't care if you already have the product. They just want to convince the person wanting you to buy stuff to buy ads. So if they're able to say, hey, this guy said Canva once, well, yeah, I guess I need to send them a Canva ad then, is really how it works. They don't want to track whether or not you have that product because then they won't sell as many ads. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And you start getting into the marketing end, and that's a whole other conversation that we could have that I've got plenty of opinions about. So
okay, we're going to have to
step away. I have to step away for a moment. I apologize.
All right.
So yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I was looking into apps to monitor my daughter's cell phone. Well, not monitor her usage, but more shut it off at night so she actually sleeps.
Right.
And so now that's all that's coming up on my phone everywhere. Facebook. It's just it's insane. But I mean, he's totally right. If they don't care if you have it, they just need to sell the ads, and they just want the money. They just want to sell the ads.
And it's also about clicks. So
Yes.
and impressions. So if they can show that, hey, we got impressions from somebody that we say is a high likely candidate to click on that, that's where the impressions come in, and then they can start charging more money. That's
Yeah,
what
exactly.
it's all about, and that's why news articles are written the way that they are. There used to be a thing, and again, this is just jumping all the way down the rabbit hole, that it's burying the lead used to be a bad thing. Now they're all buried, and you have to go hunting to go. They tease you with some piece of information, and then they hide it like a needle in a haystack somewhere inside of that article, because they're timing how long they have you on there, assuming that means that you're reading the article and being exposed to the ads.
Yep.
That's it. It's a game that everybody's playing. It's not.
Well, and half the time, what they use as their hook is only half true.
Oh, certainly. Yes.
Unfortunately for them, I'm one of those that, especially if I'm on Facebook, I'm not going to go read the article. I'm going to go peruse the comments to find out what's going on.
I've done that before too. And I actually, there was a guy this goes back to before I ever did anything like this, that I was just trying to do voiceover work, and he was calling himself a voiceover coach. And there was a article that he wrote, and the title of it, and this was in 2020, the title of it was COVID, I Got It. Well, what he was trying to say was that I understand the deal with COVID and what we should be doing.
Oh.
That he understood. By I got it, he understood. Not that he actually had it. And it irritated me so much that I sent him a message, and I said, look, I don't believe in this kind of thing. And then he got all mad at me about, well, clickbait's a thing and I could do it okay, go do it, but I'm not reading. I'm not following you anymore. That was because I don't like clickbait.
No,
I don't like anything that's inherently deceptive.
Yeah.
And anymore, they don't care whether they're deceptive or not, because they're after clicks. And that's it. They just want the stats. That's why a lot of those video shorts that you watch, and me, and doom scrolling, they're AI generated completely. There's no real person behind any of it.
No, it's crazy.
It's an AI generated script, AI generated voice, B-roll for video, all AI generated. And how many views can we get? That serves no purpose other than to try to hack the system of whether it's TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or whoever, to try to get views on it so people can make money. That's it. And there's, what real reason does it have? So, and you wanted to talk about movies. Look what we've done.
I mean, as well as I do that this is just how conversations with Jason roll. And it's not just him. I can't just throw him under the bus. I'm as guilty as anybody else. But yeah, I mean, and it's funny because when you think about it, even with Armageddon, even though it's not necessarily computer tech that they're talking about, that might be what, Jason's grumbles are. It's still tech in one form or another. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't necessarily think about, especially when you think like HVAC. He mentioned like thermostats. You can hack into those. Well, that's because that's all tied. HVAC has a tech component where it didn't used to, but now it does, just like everything else. Just like your phones are very much tech bound. So yeah, our conversations can get kind of strange.
Well, and there is one part of Armageddon that I think is way beyond realistic, and that's the idea that an asteroid the size of Texas would not be seen for until we only had 3 weeks before it hit us.
Yeah.
No, that's actually accurate.
Really?
Yes.
How?
Because we only monitor a very small amount of the night sky. There's very little to no budget to monitor the night sky. We spend all of our time monitoring near Earth orbit items, which the Air Force and other countries handle. So we can track all the stuff that's really close, but we just don't have the capability or the technology to monitor the entire night sky to track something coming towards us. I can't remember what it was, but it was a small percent. I almost say less than 10% of the night sky that we actually look at.
Wow.
Well, get a good night's sleep tonight with that knowledge.
Good night, kids.
Wow.
So
That took a dark turn.
That is accurate. I mean, we're getting better as time goes on, but we just don't have the funding to monitor the night sky like we honestly probably should. Especially when we're looking for planet killers like they had in Armageddon, which I'm starting to think is Todd's favorite movie, quite honestly.
Well, it's the one that actually there's one more that I want to bring up before we wrap things up, because I'm keeping you guys a little bit too long here. So to me, the ultimate in tech movies, Tron.
Oh gosh.
Love Tron.
I think Tron is phenomenal, and I think now obviously you're not going to get sucked into a real world where there's actual beings inside of a computer. However, when you watch that movie and you think about how far ahead of the internet it was, and then what the internet became, to me, it's fortune telling.
Yeah. I mean, it's still we may be looking at a much further distant vision of what computer life would be like. But I don't know if an accounting program is going to become self-aware and start attacking other programs with a flying disc. I just don't know if that's going to happen. But if it does, it'll be very Tron-y. Tron to me is fantasy, not technology. It was an amazing example of how to show something that looked like computer graphics without it being computer graphics. Right. There was actually very little computer graphics in the original Tron.
Oh, well, I don't. Were movies even using computer graphics back then? Was it 1984?
They were.
Is that when it came out?
They were. I mean, there is some computer graphics in Tron. The video game footage of like the big blocks and that kind of stuff. The wireframe type stuff. That was what they could do back then. And that rolls me into another thing, but we'll get to that in a second. The technology they had, honestly, was, they had bodysuits with reflective paint on it and that kind of deal. And that's how they did everybody lighting up and all that. Really cool concept, worked really well for the movie. Now, meshing the animation and that kind of deal, like the bikes and all that, that was traditional cell animation, Beauty and the Beast type stuff. But the one argument I've always loved is, the moon landing was faked. It was all done using CGI. And I'm like, there was no CGI back then.
Now we're getting out there for the conspiracy theorists.
Yes. But yeah, there was no computer. There was no computer that could even remotely fake a moon landing back then. Now, there's other tricks that people could use to make the conspiracy theorists happy. There's other tricks and that kind of stuff you could use to fake some of that stuff. I am 100% on the science side of I can get a high-power laser, shoot the moon with it at an exact coordinate, and get a reflection back from the reflectors they left on the moon. Mm-hmm. That tells me they were there. Right. If you get a high enough power telescope, you can actually see stuff that was left on the moon. So moon landing aside, but I mean, computer graphics, all that's great. We finally got to the point just now where you can come up with something somewhat believable. Whether or not we had that technology 50 years ago, I don't think so. So there you go. We're still talking movies. I just wanted to throw the moon landing in there because we're talking about fake tech. Come on.
But to your point about the Jetsons and about Star Trek and whatnot, making this stuff up, I think, is what spurs future tech innovations. And I don't think people fully realize just how much of an impact all of these, whether they're fictional or trying to depict something real, I don't think people realize the full extent that what that effect has on the future tech. And not even just future tech, but literally what's going on right now as well. Something that we may be talking about that's completely fictional now, in the future, who knows? It may become real. and people may laugh at us for this conversation.
No, I totally agree with you on that. I think, honestly, the movie industry, science fiction and that kind of stuff has done more to push technology forward than any think tank has ever done. You know, if you got these dreamers, you know, your Star Wars, Star Trek, you know, Battle Beyond the Stars kind of folks who come up with all this, hey, this would be cool and this is how I think it looks and how it works. And then you have the people with the knowledge. You have the engineers and the scientists going, you know, that might be possible. And then that's how we end up getting stuff in the future, you know? I mean, honestly, a lot of our power systems, a lot of technology that we have, it took somebody thinking way outside the box saying, wouldn't it be neat if, to hand it to the scientist that goes, hey, that could happen.
Don't discount those fanboys.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that makes technology exciting.
Well, then somebody needs to get working on the Marty McFly hoverboard because
no kidding, right?
We're
still waiting on that.
I know.
Until we have anti-gravity units, not seeing it.
Yeah.
No,
how about teleportation?
Well, that would be very cool too.
I want teleportation.
Teleportation and wormhole technology. I would totally be behind that.
All right. You know? Well, I see a new division of ThinkSpaceIT.
Oh, God.
And
and I'll never see my bed again.
Say, guys,
we'll get right on that. Let me go get my soldering iron out because you know that's the first step, right?
Always grateful for your time, and this is I don't know what to do with this, but it's cool.
Well, you know, if we were just going to sit and talk computers, everybody'd be bored. I mean,
that's true.
I hate to say it, computers are becoming a commodity item. They are no longer I have a Dell, I have an HP, I have a whatever. It's now I have my device. I don't care what brand's on it, as long as it does what I need.
Except I have to scroll in reverse with my Apple.
Yep.
You know, with instead of the way that the Dell goes. So that's other than that. All right.
You Apple user.
Jessa Erickson, Jason Erickson, ThinkSpaceIT. Thank you so much for your time, and looking forward to talking again.
Thank you.
Great time talking with Jessa and Jason, and I'm looking forward to the next chance I have to have them back on the show. GT Motors on Broadway in Council Bluffs has an ever-changing inventory that will help get you in a quality used vehicle. Trucks, large and small SUVs, passenger cars, and even sports cars. GT Motors can help, even with my voice cracking. Check out their inventory at gtmotorscb.com, and be sure to stop by the lot at 21st and Broadway. Vehicles change daily. They even provide on-site financing. GT Motors, 21st and Broadway in Council Bluffs. And a big thank you to Bryce Taylor with GLI Insurance Group. It is a local and family-owned independent insurance group that's been helping people find the best possible plan for them for over a decade. Bryce is also the founder of the Council Bluffs Food Lovers page. And you may be a new member. How do I know that? Because I just saw the other day, he just brought in another couple of hundred new members. That list is growing all the time. We are going to be going out for another restaurant review very, very soon. So be on the lookout for that. That's going to wrap up today's show. Thank you so much, Jessa and Jason Erickson. Don't forget, if you need some advice or some counsel on tech support inside of your business, ThinkSpaceIT.com is the website to go to. My name is Todd Studer. I hope you have a great Thursday.